So in the German countryside, especially in the so-called Eastern German countryside, the former socialist part, you find a lot of villages, many villages, almost all the villages, I would say, in some parts, which are basically dying out, you know. People have left, the young people leave, the old people die. There's not much to do here, at least in the opinion of the young people. And the people are not having many kids anyways. And in this village here, there were probably at one point something like 500 people living here. Now it's maybe 100 people, and they're all old. And so you get many of these abandoned houses, homesteads, and this used to be a road, a little street, you know. You could drive your car up to here, but now it's totally overgrown. And I have nothing particular against, you know, nature reclaiming some land. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's sad that you know, if you consider the whole demographic problem, you know, people are, you know, the countryside is basically the backbone of a people, you know, the farmers, then the food production, and now it's all being done by huge corporations, and the traditional farmer who feeds himself and sells his surplus is basically dying out. And if you look at the cities, they're totally overrun by immigrants. And then you have these refugees basically from the cities, these boomers, who move to the countryside, and they rebuild one of these houses, restore it, and then live in there with their flat screen TVs, and the caravan is parked in the backyard, and they don't have many kids anyways. They don't come here to farm and to live, you know, and to work. They just come here to house, you know, to just inhabit the house. They don't really do anything here. And whenever they have some time and some money left, they just drive with a caravan to Italy or somewhere, you know, and waste some resources on that. Now I like to enter these houses sometimes and, you know, scavenge around a little bit. You know, sometimes you can find useful things, like these glasses here. If you're lucky, you get these Weck glasses where you can, which you can use to store fruits and stuff. You know, there's these glasses. They have usually a lid, and you can put fruits in there and seal it by cooking it, and then it lasts quite some time. You know, this is a glass like that with the glass lid, you know. And they are very, you know, it's for conservation of food. They are very useful, and you can find them in these abandoned houses. And just all in all, it's just so interesting to look around and see all these old objects, which are now replaced mostly by plastic products from China. But here you can see old things that were still made by German industry in the socialist German times. For example, this thing here is a big cauldron for cooking meat, you know, for making Wurst, you know, sausage and you know, pâtés and stuff, and Schmalz, you know, fat. It's not used anymore, obviously. But I wanted to show you something over here in this other shack here, which I found remarkable. because here there are some magazines, some old GDR magazines. Here you have like Elternhaus und Schule, you know, like the home, the parental home and the school. It's like a schooling and education magazine for families. Here's another issue. And what I found most remarkable is this brochure here. It's from the German Red Cross from October 1979. And it celebrates the 30th anniversary of the GDR. And if you look closely, then you can see what is the image on this brochure. You know, what can you see here? Those are blonde people in traditional folk dress performing a folk dance. So they're celebrating a German country, a socialist German country. 30 years of socialist Germany, 30 years of the Republic are celebrated here by celebrating the German culture. And I find this absolutely remarkable, you know. And now the whole magazine, I looked through it a little bit, and you can see that the articles are around, you know, around medics, you know, around young medics, which is like a program where you train kids to become medics already. And I remember that from my own, I remember this from my own kindergarten time, where whenever we went hiking somewhere, one was appointed the medic, and he had to take the medikit, and it was part of this Jungpionier program. You know, we had something like a Hitler Youth, you know, like a youth movement where you could join, and you would get some, yeah, you could call it paramilitary training, but you get like these plays in the countryside, you know, where you have to orient yourself in the wild and all this pathfinding stuff, you know, like the Boy Scouts basically. But it was a state organized Boy Scout organization, and they worked also together with the Red Cross, and they are having some articles here. They're describing some of their programs, you know. Here it says, I want to be a good role model for young medics, you know, junge Sanitäter is this, young medics. And here you see the young medics, which are basically the Jungpioniere, you know, the Boy Scouts, the Hitler Youth guys, with the medikit, you know, and with their cappy, you know. It's very interesting. I would like to read all this magazine if I had the time. And here we see it also. The organization is called Wir, you know, like we, and it's the youth in the DRK, the Jugend im DRK, the youth in the German Red Cross. And this article is called Ready for the Defense of the Homeland. Ready for the Defense of the Heimat. Bereit zur Verteidigung der Heimat. You see, the whole spirit in this socialist magazine is around the nation state, you know, the homeland of your own people, and the defense of this homeland, and about doing important things for the well-being of your homeland, like training your young girls to become medics, you know, to keep your people healthy. Now, of course, there's also something about you know, immunization here, the vaccination program, which was also carried out by the GDR very rigorously. Everybody was vaccinated. But There's also an article about the civil war in Namibia, you know, where talks about the South American, the South African soldiers and the communist rebels in Namibia, you know, and they talk about the communist villages like our villages, you know. So it's very interesting. But what I find absolutely remarkable is this basic premise, you know, the basic idea, the image of the GDR, which is portrayed here, which is still the image of a folk state, you know, the image of a state by the people, for the people, you know, keeping the traditions of the people and also the race, you know. Now it's the 29th of October and we are marking almost the 30th anniversary of the reunited Germany. The reunited Germany. What would a magazine about the celebration of 30 years of BRD, you know, of Federal Republic of Germany, what would 30 years anniversary of this new republic look like, you know? There would certainly not be blonde people dancing in folk dress, you know. There would be this multicultural arrangement of random dudes, you know, of transsexual, undefinable random dudes on antidepressants. They would, you know, get drunk and dance to techno music or whatever, and they would be dressed in these Chinese plastic clothes, or, you know, cotton clothes made from cotton from the drying out Aral Sea. You know, what would they celebrate? They would, you know, have all these races together. They would put a black person, and they would say basically their message would not be, look how beautiful our people is, and look how we support the German people, and look what these last 30 years have achieved for our country. Look how nice and beautiful everything is here now for us. This would not be their message. Their message would basically be a punch in your face, and they would say, look how diverse we are. Look that we are not racist. Look how we are helping all the people in the world, you know. Look how we are inviting everybody here, and look how we are the best, the morally superior, you know. It would all be this political, moral, global perspective. It would not be, you know, I don't know how to put it in words. Imagine if you have a plant, you know, you have a little plant in your room, and you let this plant die because you are always dreaming about the reunification of the universe, you know, like you are always thinking in these gigantic perspectives, in these huge contexts, you know. But the very real thing in your room, in front of your eyes, your little flower that you have growing there and that you need to water every day to keep it alive, you know, this little flower is drying out. But hey, you're sitting there in this blank room, you know, this empty room, dreaming about solving all these huge problems of humanity, you know. And this is basically the mindset of the youth nowadays, you know. They don't learn practical skills, they don't become young medics, they don't learn folk dance and knitting and sewing and keeping animals and growing plants and growing your own food. They don't learn any of these practical skills. The only thing that they learn is how you shouldn't be racist, you know, how all the races are exactly the same, you know, how they basically learn things that you wouldn't question anyways, you know. Nobody in the GDR time thought that any race is better than the other, you know. it was just taken for granted that there are different races and that's it, you know. They wouldn't smear it into your face all the time. And yeah, I don't know. Just imagine 30 years of FDR, 30 years of Federal Republic of Germany, you know. What would it look like? I don't even think they will celebrate it, you know. Why should they celebrate? Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this perspective, and I hope we can somehow turn this around, you know. I hope that one day we can celebrate something. Like, I'm talking to all the people of German and European descent in the world, but I'm also talking to all the people who still believe in their own folk, who cherish their own folk tradition, you know. It can be Maori, it can be Brazilian tribes, it can be, you know, Mapuche or anybody, or North American tribes, or basically any nationality or tribal group or an ethnic group that exists in the world, and that is fighting the struggle for keeping their own traditions. And I'm talking to all these people, and I'm hoping that we can return to this world where differences between the people are upheld and are valued and are lived, you know, where folk dance and folk tradition is not just a tourist attraction, but actually something that you do, that is a vital part of your life, that you need for your survival, that you need for your happiness, which it actually is, you know. In my opinion, the whole reason for this rampant epidemic of depression and sickness and personal problems and you know, people who are not satisfied with their lives, is because they are denied the very substance of life, which is folk tradition, you know. In my opinion, the substance of life, what you are actually living for, is folk tradition. Doing the things that your ancestors did, you know, making your own clothes, making your own food, chanting your own songs, making your own music, dancing your own dances, keeping your animals, your traditional animals, living with the nature around you, with the traditional nature that your ancestors learned to live in for thousands of years. And I hope that we can, you know, reverse this trend of mixing up everything into this unrecognizable blob of consumerism, you know, and return to this beautiful folk culture. And I want to make people proud of their culture again and give them hope and courage to pursue this road, to not flee the countryside, but to stay in the countryside and to till the soil and to keep animals and to revive the traditions. And making your own clothes, in my opinion, is a very crucial part, you know, of this. I one day hope to replace this hood here, you know, this cotton hood, with something that I made myself, you know, or that my family made, or that somebody in the village where I live made, you know. And anyways, I hope that you grow some courage, and I hope you get lots of kids, you know, lots of kids of your own, because our struggle is not to educate, you know, the guy from Namibia who comes here, you know. It's not my duty to educate the Namibian child, the black child, and to teach it the German history, you know. Why would I do that? Why would a black guy from Namibia teach a German kid in Namibian history? You know, it doesn't make sense, you know. So we need to have lots of kids again, repopulate the dying countryside, and grow again from the soil. This is basically the actual literal meaning of a grassroots revolution, you know, a revolution that comes from the roots, and quite literally, you know, from the roots of your people, from the roots of your culture, from the roots in the soil that grow a plant that feed you, that feeds an animal, which then feeds you again, which clads you. We need to grow back again from the seed, which is still in us, you know. And I think we will live in a more beautiful world in the future if we keep this tradition and return to the simplicity and the beauty of the life that we once had.